Call to order the Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, September 15th, 2016. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Harlicker, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Stevens?
Here.
Commissioner Haas?
Here.
Commissioner Knobloch?
Here.
Commissioner Casey?
Here.
Commissioner Schmolke? Commissioner Stevenson?
Here.
And Chair Schwartz.
Here. First piece of business this evening is to adopt our agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Stevenson, second by Knobloch. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the approval of the minutes of our August 18th, 2016 meeting. Commission.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Motion by Casey, second by Schmolke. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? Motion carries with one abstention, Commissioner Haas. Before we start the actual cases, just in case there's anyone in the audience, Case 5, the car dealership case, has been withdrawn by the applicant. So when we get to that, we will simply be making a motion to withdraw their application. So if you're here for that, there's not going to be anything going on with it because it's being withdrawn. Next, we'll start with planning case 16-24, a lot split at 10000 Cottonwood Street, Olson. Mr. Harlicker.
Chair and Commissioners, this is a proposed lot split. Property is highlighted here with a black outline. It's got frontage on Cottonwood and Dogwood and 100th on the south side. And this is what's being proposed. They're taking a 24,000 square foot parcel and dividing it into two lots. As you can see, there's only one other lot up here that hasn't been split in half. The property to the north, I think, went through the same process last year. So they're taking this larger parcel and essentially splitting it into two. The existing house faces Cottonwood and it'll be on Lot B. The house complies with all the setback requirements. However, the shed on the back encroaches into the 5-foot rear yard easement, so that will have to be moved as part of this project. Parcels do comply with the lot size requirements and lot width requirements. Parcel B has frontage on Cottonwood and a street side yard of 100th Avenue. And then parcel A has frontage on Dogwood and street side yard on 100th also. The issue with the two lots is that the lots are just shy of the minimum lot depth of 135 feet. So as part of this application, the applicant is also requesting a variance to the lot depth requirement. Engineering comments are attached. There were minimal, some minor comments from the engineering department. The applicant will have to sign over drainage and utility easements along the property lines. Park dedication will need to be paid for the two parcels. Back in 1950, when this was platted, park dedication was not collected at that time. And with respect to the variances, as I stated earlier, the minimum lot depth is 135 feet, and both these lots are just shy of that. One is 134, and the other is 133 and a half. Granting of the variance are triggered by, or required to meet the following criteria. that the intent of this chapter is met. The granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public safety, health, or welfare, or injurious to other property or improvements in the neighborhood. The condition upon which the request for a variance is based are, excuse me, are unique to the property for which the variance is sought and are not generally applicable to other properties. And finally, the literal interpretation of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicants of rights enjoyed by other properties in the zoning district. Special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. And because of the particular natural surrounding, shape, or topographic conditions of the specific property involved, unusual hardship to the owner would result as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the regulations were carried out. Staff believes that the applicant in this request does comply with those criteria and is recommending that the variance be granted. With that, staff is recommending the Planning Commission approve this lot split with the condition that all comments of the city engineer be addressed, compliance with Title 11 land development regulations, and park dedication for the 2 lots be paid in the amount of $2,000 per lot prior to releasing the lot split for recording.
Thank you, Mr. Harlicker. Any questions from the commission for Mr. Harlicker? Is the petitioner present and would they like to speak? If you would like to speak, step to the mic, please. Give your name and address. Thank you.
My name's Jeff Olson. I live at 10,000 Cottonwood Street. And I just want to say I did move the shed now, the 2 feet to the east, so that's all taken care of, so that shouldn't be an issue anymore.
All right, thank you. All right, we do have a public hearing in this matter, so at this time, I will open a public hearing. Is there anyone present that wishes to speak to this case? Anyone wishing to speak on this case? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Commission.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Schmolke.
In planning case 16-24, I recommend approval of the proposed lot split and the variance to minimum lot depth requirement with the conditions as cited in our packet. Second.
Motion by Schmolke, second by Stevens. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. This is a recommendation by the Planning Commission and will go to the council at their October 4th meeting. Good luck. All right, now we have 2 cases that are tied together. Planning case 16-15 and 16-16. One is a land use and one is a zone change to change land use and zoning from office, general commercial, and moderate density residential to high density residential. Mr. Harlicker.
Yes, Chair and Commissioners. Excuse me. It's a request to rezone the outlined property to high-density residential and land use designation of high-density residential. It's about 2.3 acres in size, and it consists of 4 lots. 1 lot fronting here on 115th, 2 lots that make up the Pedersen Floral site, and a lot here on the west that is a single-family residence. To the east here is the U-Haul dealership, townhouses, single-family development, and a building here that's used as a residence and a vacuum cleaner repair business. The land use, surrounding land uses are as follows. The red is general commercial. The darker tan here, or gold, is moderate density residential. The lighter yellow is low density residential, and the purple is office. Looking at the zoning map, It reflects the land use map with general commercial, moderate density residential, low density residential, and office. In looking at the proposed zone change, staff looked at several different issues as it relates to the development of this property. The first one is access. At this point, it's a full access into this site, right in, or left in, left out, right in, right out. At some point, there'll be a median installed along Coon Rapids Boulevard in this location. That was identified in the county's access management plan for Coon Rapids Boulevard. What that will do is will limit access into this property, or lots on this side of the street, to right in, right out only, which really limits the site's suitability for commercial development. Lot size was also looked at. The size of the parcel limits the commercial redevelopment of the site, and also the lot depth really limits how that site can be redeveloped as a commercial use. Compatibility with the adjacent residential land uses. High-density residential is more compatible with the adjacent moderate-density residential and low-density residential. It'll function kind of as a buffer between the general commercial U-Haul and the arterial street, Coon Rapids Boulevard. Compatibility with the Coon Rapids Boulevard Framework Plan. The Framework Plan identifies infill housing as a development principle. The ports are identified for high density. Infill residential development was also suitable for the area between the ports. Also, because the corridor's transit access, the framework plan includes policy that calls for moderate to high density residential housing in the areas between the ports. And also the alignment with the city's comprehensive land use plan. The housing chapter of the plan identifies a variety of housing goals for the city, including providing land for a variety of housing types. By changing this to high-density residential, you'd be allocating some additional land for high-density residential development. At this point, there isn't any undeveloped or vacant high-density residential property in the city. The proposed amendment provides additional acreage for the high density, and another goal of the plan is to address blight and blighting influences. By rezoning this to high density residential, you'll be redeveloping the vacant Pedersen Floral site and bringing that to a higher, better use. The land use chapter identifies a goal to improve the appearance and function of Coon Rapids Boulevard, ensuring that redevelops with a variety of housing types. Again, changing the land use and zoning to high-density residential would work towards accomplishing that goal. And again, the amendment supports the goal by eliminating underutilized land and obsolete land uses, and increases the opportunity to increase the number of housing units. With that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the proposed comprehensive land use plan change from office and general commercial to moderate density residential, and moderate density residential to high density residential, and recommends the Commission recommend to the Council approval of the proposed zone change to high density residential. And with that, I'll answer any questions, and the applicants are in the audience also.
Okay, Mr. Harlicker. Commission, any questions from Mr. Harlicker at this time?
I have
Commissioner Stevens.
about how large of people, I mean, how many apartments or how many high density you think you can fit on this size? What are your?
I haven't done that analysis. Right now, the overlay district limits dwelling units to 7 units per acre.
Okay.
In order to go above that, they'd have to apply for the density flexibility to go up to higher density. I think certainly the site can accommodate a higher density than that. It's almost 3 acres. So, even if you go up to 10 units per acre, that's, 30 units. What limits what you can do there is setback requirements, parking requirements, open space requirements, things like that. Those really set the parameters as to how many units can go on site.
Okay. And the traffic flow, would it go back out on 115th and Coon Rapids Boulevard? Is that what it's, going to?
Yeah, at this point, we haven't seen a site plan yet.
Right.
So I don't know how to respond to where the access would be. Certainly, it would be staff's preference that access be limited to Coon Rapids Boulevard and not out to 115th, but we have not seen an application yet.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions for Mr. Harker?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Stevenson?
I just want to clarify, I was looking at the history, I was trying to remember, search my own brain for this, but 2013, 2015, and both times was the proposed move to high density?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Commission, any other questions for Mr. Harker? The petitioner wish to add anything? If so, please come to the microphone, state your name and address, please.
Good evening, my name is Thomas Wasmon. I'm the CEO of From Ground Architects, and we're here representing John Bessison with Benchmark Commercial. We really don't have anything else to say other than we're very excited about this site. We see this as a very viable market rate apartment site. We've got the potential for a really great market here, kind of within walking distance one way of the college and the hospital in the other direction. And with this approval, we'll be able to go forward with a market study with Maxfield Research to really focus on what the market needs are for both number of bedroom types of units and rent points. So we're very excited about it and looking forward to it. So,
Thank you. Commission, any questions for the petitioner? All right. At this time, I will open a public hearing on both planning case 16-15 and 16-16, the land use change and the zoning change. Anyone here wishing to speak to the case, please step to the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 5 minutes, please.
I'm Jane Hawkinson, 3489 115th Lane, and we are basically across the street from the back exit onto 115th, that lot. And we're very concerned about the traffic on that street already. And I just want to make sure that we're not going to have more traffic on our street. You can barely get up and down the street now with the cars, and so I just want to make sure that we're not going to have a driveway or an exit out on 115th.
Well, as Mr. Harlicker stated, there's no site plan
Right.
provided yet, so we can't really even address that issue. But it's something we would certainly consider and look at if and when the site plan was presented.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair,
Commissioner
if I
Stevenson?
could just add, you would have an opportunity to come back and
Yes.
speak to us about that at that time as well. So this isn't your only, if it does go forward, this wouldn't be your only bite at the apple.
Okay.
You would be noticed again if and when the site plan came forward, so you could come and speak again.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Pillman. I live at 3554 115th Lane Northwest. I was reviewing the petition And under number 2, under the recommendation, it says the proposed comprehensive land use amendment will not have adverse impact on the adjacent properties. My backyard butts up against this proposed property, and I think it will have adverse effects on my property. Aside from that, I believe that this area is also zoned as a River Rapids overlay district, and so I pulled those, that ordinance, and as you mentioned, it's 7 units per acre, and someone, or the designer or developer, is requesting high density and hoping to build more. So I'm hoping we're not going down a path where we're going to also then change that if this petition gets approved. So I'd like that to be taken into effect, or into consideration.
Well, even if the property does get rezoned, right now the framework plan does limit it to 7 units per acre. So that's again something that would be considered at the time that the site plan would be presented.
Can that be accomplished in the form of not townhouses? Because I believe that's part of the River Rapids overlay district, that townhomes are not allowed, or quad homes? Is it
I
quad?
guess I'm not sure what the question is. In order to go higher than 7 units per acre, it's part of the site plan review process, but there's a special program or request to increase the density up to higher than 7 units per acre. And there's certain strict criteria that they have to meet in order to get that higher density. And that'll be part of the site plan review process, if and when they come in with their proposal.
All
So
right.
that's built into the site plan review process.
Are studies also done at that time or at some point along this process? Okay, so obviously my home value will be impacted, and so that'll come down, and then the taxes that I pay will come down. So is that looked at throughout the neighborhood and how that impacts the overall budget?
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Maybe I can help answer that. First of all, the way the property is zoned right now, I'm sure it has some impact on the nature of the residences around it. For example, the way the property is zoned now, somebody could come in with a site plan and ask for an access to 115th to access the property. And if it met all the site plan requirements, we would have to grant that. So just changing the zoning on this site doesn't make much difference in terms of whether they can ask for another access. The other thing is, let me talk a little bit about the potential request for an increase. Right now we're at 7 units per acre on the overlay district area. The special process is called flexibility. Somebody can come in and ask for a higher density, for example, but to do that they have to give the city and the residents implicitly a lot of things. For example, they have to do better buffering. They have to have more open space, for example. They have to provide more amenities. They have to make it look nicer. There's a lot of things that they would have to do to benefit the area if they wanted to go to a higher density. Now, the other thing I should point out, this has more directly to do with what you're asking. Do property values get looked at? Not specifically by this commission or by the city. We can't directly look at economic conditions. We can look at general compatibility issues, but we don't go out and do market studies and get appraisals and things and say, well, it looks like this property's value is going to drop. And in fact, historically in the city, when properties like this are changed and then developed, that tends to bring up the property values for the rest of the properties in the city, because the property is now getting developed in a much nicer way with newer things, better accesses, crime rates drop, all kinds of things happen that actually increase your property values. And that's what we've found just doing, our appraisal work after the developments go in. So to say, hey, my property values are going to drop, that tends not to be true. We do not have any data on that right now, and in fact, we can't consider that.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak at the public hearing on either of these two cases? Anyone else? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Commission, your thoughts?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Stevenson.
I was on the planning commission both times before when this came up. I'm quite confident I voted in favor of changing to high-density residential. I'll do it again tonight. I think each time this has come up, we've heard concerns about the traffic access to the road in the rear, and I am sympathetic to that. And each time I think I've said to the applicant that you should hear that, because I think when you come back in the site plan process, it's something we're going to be paying special attention to and something we're very worried about. So hopefully that message gets communicated again this time around. I think that the Pedersen Floral property is one of the more blighted properties in the city, and I think that those concerns about property values are well heard, but I think that they should apply to the fact that right now there's this blighted property sitting there, and if we can get it redeveloped, actually, I think, as Mr. Johnson said, we might see a host of better outcomes, including higher property values, even though that's not a factor that we're going to base this decision upon. I think that the broader perspective about how that neighborhood makes sense, switching to high-density residential is going to be a positive there, and that should have a lot of positive consequences, including probably higher property values. So I'm absolutely in favor of this. I'll be voting yes.
Anyone else? Do we have a motion? Let's take each case separately, please.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Stevenson.
I move in Plan Case 1615 that we recommend approval of the amendment of the city's comprehensive land use plan to change the land use designation from office, general commercial, and moderate density residential to high density residential based on the factors stated in the report.
I'll second.
Motion by Stevenson, second by Knobloch. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. This is a recommendation by the Planning Commission and will be heard by the City Council at their October 18th meeting. Now we need a motion on Planning Case 1616, please.
In Planning Case 1616, the Planning Commission recommends approval of the proposed zone to change to high-density residential based on the 5 following proposals that are already printed.
Second.
Motion by Stevens, second by Hosh. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. This is a recommendation by the Planning Commission and will be introduced by the City Council at the October 4th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Harlicker, Planning Case 16-23, a site plan approval for an office building at 3360 Northdale Boulevard, DRF Northdale Dental.
Yes, Chairman and Commissioners, this is a request for a 6,600 square foot office building with a 40 space parking lot. Property is located here between Northdale Avenue on the north and 129th on the site on the south. There's a credit union to the west and another office building to the east. This site will share an access off of Northdale with this office building and an access off of 129th also with that office building to the east. Here's the site plan. It's a one-story building with parking along the east side and some additional parking along Northdale Boulevard. Here's where the access comes in off of Northdale, shared with the office building. And here's where the access comes in off 129th, again shared with this office building. The site plan exceeds the number of parking spaces. I think the required parking is 23, and they're providing 40 spaces. This area here is their infiltration basin for their stormwater management. The front of the building faces the larger parking lot here with a secondary access facing this smaller parking area right here facing Northdale. Dumpster enclosure will be located here. The dumpster enclosure for the adjacent office building is right next to it, so they'll be next to each other. Grading plan, again, you can see this is where the stormwater pond will be. Drainage will flow into there via catch basins. It's a fairly level site, so minimum grading will be required. Landscaping, got the required number of street trees along Northdale and along 129th. A 3-foot high berm or screen that can be a combination of berming and landscaping is required along Northdale Boulevard. There is sidewalk access coming from the sidewalk on Northdale to the site and then leading up to the sidewalk to the main entrance. Additional screening will be required along the dumpster enclosure to better screen it. One option might be is to increase some of the screening here. That way it'll block the straight-on visibility from 129th. Park dedication for this site has not been paid and is due at the time of building permit application. The open space plan meets the required number of overstory trees, ornamental and evergreen trees. It is short of the required number of shrubs. 115 are proposed, 120 is required. So there'll have to be some minor modifications to the landscape plan, but in general, it's a very good, well-landscaped plan with landscaping all around the foundation of the building. This is the elevations. It does meet the new exterior material requirements of the zoning code. No more than 35% of any one material on either of the sides. This is the front entrance here with a architectural metal entryway here and a canopy going out. This here and here is a darker brick. It's called out as charcoal black. And then these are more of a white brick. I think they call it alabaster or Alaska white. And then ephes bands across the top. And this is the elevation facing Northdale, again with the black brick wrapping around the corner. This is the side of the main entrance here. Then this is the secondary access with the ephes and the white brick here. This is the west elevation facing the Spire Credit Union building. Again, it's a mix of glass windows, white brick, and then the darker brick and ephes. And this is the south elevation here, facing 129th. Again, you can see the side of the main entrance with the canopy extending out over it, and the wraparound black brick on the corner, the white brick, and the ephes. With that, staff is recommending the Planning Commission approve the site plan with the following conditions. A 3-foot high hedge berm be located between the parking lot and Northdale Boulevard. An additional 5 shrubs are needed in the open space. Mechanical equipment must be screened and or painted. It's not to be visible from public streets and properties. Compliance with Title 11. Park dedication in the amount of $6,800 is due at the time of building permit application. All engineering comments must be addressed, and the developer enter into a site security agreement with the city.
Thank you, Mr. Harlicker.
And the applicant's in the audience. I think they brought a sample board with you?
I did.
right.
Any questions from the commission for Mr. Harlicker?
Yes, I have one.
Commissioner Stevens?
You know, you're saying that they're short 5 shrubs in the open areas, but they have 5 extra shrubs in the, above that, because they're required to have 67 and they have 72.
Yep.
Can they just move 5 shrubs from there down?
If the commission is comfortable with striking that condition, that's fine.
You know, I mean, it's like, okay.
Yep.
You know, the numbers all match up, at least when I did my addition, so. Okay. Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Casey?
I had a question about one of the recommendations, the mechanical equipment must be screened or painted. Is that on ground level, and what kind of,
They're up on the roof,
Okay.
Commissioner Casey. And they did do, and maybe the architect can explain it a little better, with the way the parapets are raised up and the way they're spacing them in the center of the building, they are very well hidden from once you get out to where the public street is in the property line.
you won't be able to see them very well from the
You
street?
know, a lot of times what they'll do is paint it a lighter color to match the upper levels of the building so as to blend in more.
And Mr. Harlicker, I see in the report that you're recommending that the bicycle rack should be installed. Should we add that
Add that as a
into the
condition.
recommendation?
Yes, Chair Schwartz.
So number 8, bicycle rack.
Or maybe you could exchange that for condition number 2.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, number 2, since we're dropping the additional shrubs, just moving them, that number 2 will be a bicycle rack near the main entrance.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Stevenson?
I just wanted to ask about the parking. You know, the requirement's 2340, is, you know, almost 100% more
40 plus, yeah.
spaces. I mean, seems like a lot of parking for a small, I mean, this is a question for the applicant.
Yeah.
It just seems like a lot of parking, and I don't know if we.
Yeah, there
Is
is
it
room
really
to the
necessary? Are
south
we
here
just
for
gonna have a bunch of-
expansion. Maybe they're allowing for
For
possible
expansion?
expansion.
Maybe it's a question for the applicant.
Be glad to address that.
Commission, any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I have
Commissioner
one more.
Casey?
One of those other recommendations, can you tell me, or perhaps Mr. Johnson can, what is the site security agreement with the city? Can you
Okay,
define that?
it's an agreement that is signed between the developer and the city that it's a mechanism to ensure that the site doesn't get partially developed and then just gets left. It allows the city an opportunity to go in and not actually put the building up, but remedy any environmental problems, erosion problems that result.
Okay, thank you.
Petitioner like to add anything, please step to the microphone. State your name and address, please.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Eric Reiners from Spirides Reiners Architects, and I think Planner Harlicker did a great job introducing the project. I can't add a lot other than we had good exchange with staff in preparing for the project and presentation. As Planner noted, we're compliant with all of the city's requirements for design and for land use. We're excited to get the project going and have enjoyed our working relationship with the dental specialists as well. One of the questions commissioners asked was related to the rooftop equipment, and we did do an analysis.
Get this in the middle, they can zoom in on it and put it up on the screen.
Great.
Could you zoom in on the overhead and what we got here on the podium, please?
Can I get a little closer?
Zoom in a little more, please.
can see the screen.
Can you see it on your screen at all?
Armand just showing the landscape plan.
Oh,
Ah, okay. If they could switch it to the plasma screen? I don't know if they can or not.
See, Scott, you can hit it on that crest on.
On there?
Here to this gadget here, so your dock.
DocCam.
Yeah.
Thank you. There we go. Modern technology.
We're still not seeing it.
oh, no. Shoot. Well, maybe we can pass this around.
Yeah.
But,
Can explain it as.
yeah, I'd be glad to. So, speaking of modern technology, what we have the luxury of is creating our drawings from three-dimensional computer models, and one of the opportunities that gives us is to do analyses from specified perspectives, and in this case, we've placed arrows on a map from where these perspectives were shot around a three-dimensional model of this building. And you can see that the parapets are going to be created and designed high enough to provide screening of the rooftop units from the adjacent right-of-ways. And so although in the straight-on building elevations, you see them kind of peeking up above the parapet edges, from the ground level perspective, those will be well hidden given their internal location on the roof and the heights of the parapets. Another question regarding site coverage and parking. There is available land where the stormwater treatment pond is being positioned on the south half of the parcel for future expansion. Whether or not that happens in the near or long term is yet to be seen, but it does have that potential. And we already have site access both from the south roadway and from the north, and so connecting those 2 points of site access with parking in anticipation of possible or potential future addition to the structure just made sense. Given, in addition to that, there's 8 exam rooms inside the facility and 2 other procedure rooms. And so when you take into account patients that might be in those rooms, in addition to patients leaving and other patients coming, the parking load could draw or require up to 40 spaces at any given time. So we just want to be careful in our site planning and provide for, you know, any eventuality for patient care.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Stevenson.
can I ask a follow-up about that parking? So you're saying both that, I guess I heard you say 2 things that kind of contradict one another.
Oh.
Which is, one is, well, we need the extra parking because we might build another whole building over there. And,
Correct.
And it'd be nice to have the extra parking.
Yes.
And then I heard you say, well, there's so much space inside this building, we might need all 40 spaces for this building alone.
Potentially, yes.
So, I mean, which is it? Do you need the parking for a ancillary building, or is it that the current building demands it? Because if the current building demands it, then if you build a second building, you're gonna need more parking, not,
Well, and we do have the room for that too, and that's what I was going to add, in that the future phase site plan that we've studied provides, as you can see, the parking turn to the north side of the building currently. We'd also have a double row of parking wrap around the south side. The stormwater ponding would be then accomplished in underground storage.
I guess I'm just really skeptical that you're gonna need 40 spots for this, and that area has a lot of,
Yeah, please.
and I'll just finish my sentence while you're walking up, which is just that there's a lot of big parking lots up in that area that, when I drive around, are often half full or less than half full, and I'd love to not have another half-full parking lot up there all the time.
My name's Matthew Carver. I'll be an oral surgeon at the practice. I see an average of about 25 patients a day. We're doing wisdom teeth, we're doing sedations, we have their families coming. We have potentially 2 other doctors working there. So we could have 12 patients in the waiting room at one single time. So I think the parking would definitely be utilized with the 40 spots. plus staff parking there as well. I have 5 staff of my own. Each doctor will have their own staff as well. So it's 3 other doctors. So we're looking at potentially up to 15 parking spots of staff alone. Potentially.
Okay. I mean, if you're very confident that you need it, then I'm not gonna question your
Yeah.
business model. It's just, you know.
Yeah, it becomes a problem when there's no parking for the patients. That's a real problem, so. Thank you.
Commission, any questions, other questions for the petitioner? Do you have material boards?
I do. Pass that around as well. Those are samples of each of the brick exterior finish and metal panel samples planned for the structure.
And then a question while we're looking at that. You have no problem with the bike rack requirement?
I have no problem with the bike rack requirement.
Thank you.
Now, do those materials correspond with these here?
Yes, they should. Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Mr. Chair, maybe while we're looking, can I ask a question?
Certainly, Commissioner.
Mr. Herlicker, we've had, it seems to be more rain gardens being proposed in the city recently. Can you talk a little bit about how they're different from regular stormwater collection?
Oh, Mark should be here.
Oh.
And I think it has to do more with the way they handle the stormwater management on the site, where rain gardens tend to infiltrate the water down into the site, where the old stormwater treatments, the sediments would sink in and the water would be piped off into the storm system. It's a more efficient way of treating runoff on site as opposed to putting it into pipes and piping it away.
Thank you.
Commission, any other questions for the petitioner? Thank you.
Thank you.
We do need a public hearing in this case, so I will open a public hearing in planning case 1623. Anyone here wishing to speak to public hearing? Anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Commission, your thoughts?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Casey?
I thought the plan was quite well presented, and when I see the site materials going through, they seem really quality. I'd be inclined to support this. I think it's a nice addition. It would fall right into that vacant lot that sits up there. I drove past it a couple times, and it seems ready-made. So, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Haas?
In planning case 16-23, I move that the planning commission approve the proposed site plan with the following conditions: 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm sorry, 1 being as stated, 2 being changed to a bike rack being created at the entrance, and 3 through 7 as stated.
Second?
Motion by Haas, second by Stevens. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This is a decision by the Planning Commission, appealed to the City Council. Thank you and good luck. Looks like it's going to be a nice looking building.
Very nice.
All right, Commission, next we have Planning Case 16-22, the site plan for the car dealership at 10202 Goldenrod Street, Carousel Motor Group. They are withdrawing their application, and we need a motion to accept the withdrawal.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Stevenson, second by Schmokey. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Harlicker, anything else?
Nothing new. Progress is being made at the hospital. If you've driven by there, you notice the pilings are going in for the deck and the foundation is going in. I believe they're expecting bid package 3 to come in, which is work on the east side of the building where the utility extension is going to be. So they're moving forward with the interior and exterior renovations and additions. The River North Dominion project is moving along. They should be fairly close in the next month or two, I think, of being ready and getting the paving in and landscaping in yet this fall.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Stevenson.
Mr. Harlicker, perhaps you can speak to what's happening on Grand Rapids Boulevard with the acquisition and destruction of the office building next to the Lily Put?
Pardon?
The Lily Put, there's a little office building on Cribbs Boulevard next to the Lily Put that I thought the city maybe acquired the land and
Yep,
knocked it down.
that should be demolished yesterday. You know, they came in and got the demolition permits, so it's just a matter of when the company's going to get in there. I know they got the backhoe there on site, so I guess it'll probably be done by the end of next week.
And do you have anything on next month's agenda?
We have a request to, there's an old convenience store on Foley and 105th. It's been vacant for a long time. We've got a church group that is interested in converting that to a church and then putting an addition on and converting that to, using that for their church. And that's it for next month.
Okay. Commission, anyone have anything? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Stevens?
Second.
Second by Hosh. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned.